Okay, so back in the garage here, I wanted to do some upgrades on one of my new cars that I actually bought off of a friend of mine. She sold me her '04 Mitsubishi Lancer Ralliart, which has actually been a pretty fun car. But the only problem that I had, or that I've had so far, was that the front passenger side wheel bearing had gone out and it was grinding, and I've already done that and replaced that. Other than that, was the right rear brake caliper was actually hung up, and whenever I get cars, I have kind of kind of a signature. Uh, I don't understand the point of making it fast if you can't stop or turn. So my first things that I ever do are suspension and brakes. And on this car, I mean, I can show you some of my other cars that kind of already have that signature on them. But I've got stainless steel braided brake lines, which these are fantastic. Very, very good quality on these. And and I went ahead and I got the 98 Eclipse. These are for like a second gen DSM Eclipse GST or GSX, the turbos. These are the front brakes. They're dual piston calipers. Now, a lot of people online are like, "Oh, that's overkill, and that's too much." It's like, but I prefer a firm brake. Um, for safety reasons, and for quote unquote spirited driving, which I'm not the type of person to, drive like a complete douche, in traffic. That's not cool, and you just kind of hang back and let those dudes go crash themselves. But if someone were to, brake check me or anything, well, I'm gonna outbrake you, so don't worry about that. Um, but aside from that, I've also got Brembo pads in there for the front and the rear. But I'm gonna paint these black. I mean, I love this beautiful like zinc coating that they've got on these, but I don't really like going for shouty brakes. Like, I'm not doing bright red and hey, look at me, because no matter what, this car especially, people seem to think it's turbocharged, and because they're not familiar with the cars themselves, and it's not. It's just an NA, but it is a peppy little car. I will say that it's got some good torque, and that my Vec works pretty well. But I have got, let's see, some black caliper paint, and this is technically the same thing. It's just they didn't have the brake clear, and this works for up to 500 degrees, which these brakes won't see that, and that works for the same for here. It's like heats up to 500 degrees, so it will work. Plus, this has ceramic, and what does this have? Ceramic. Okay, so it works the same. I'm gonna go ahead and take those rear brakes off and get started. All right, so I got the calipers kind of finishing up over here. You can see that drying up and everything. Um, but I kind of wanted to show this. I thought this was kind of neat with these Brembos. Um, I know unboxing things are just kind of it's whatever, to each their own on it. But I just thought this was kind of nifty that they take the pads themselves and then wrap them in this like cloth with rubber bands and stuff like that. But then they also got your stickers and whatnot too, and then like break the silence grease, which is pretty neat. But I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up, and then I'll get them on the car, and then we'll take a look at that again. Slight snag on doing this. The set that I ordered was supposed to be for the 2.4, Lancer Ralliart, because it's a two-piece rear set that's joined by this. Now here's the problem. You see that end on there? It's like a kind of looks rounded. Well, it's because it's supposed to fit down in there, which has a rounded. Let's see if I can get in there a little bit better. Yeah, it has a rounded base in there. the braided ones have a nipple in there. So slight snag. All I do is I just cut off this little end with a tiny little small pipe cutter, like the one that you clamp down and then you just spin it around it. But you got to do it really, really close to that end because you don't have really much to play with. But there definitely is still enough. I already did the other side, and I wanted to show this. But just use a cheap little flaring tool because all you need is, I used that one right there. This is standard, but it's 3/16. It's fine. It'll hold it and it'll do the job and everything. You just put it on there. But the main line off, or that goes to all of this, it even has this end on here, so you're gonna have to cut it off too and get up in there. But it's good because they give you plenty of room to kind of pull it around and stuff. So it's just a little slight hiccup on there, but it should be perfectly fine. It's seated down on the other one. So all right, we'll be back in a minute. So something else that I wanted to point out in here, which is hilarious. I don't know why Mitsubishi in their infinite wisdom thought this was a great idea, but with the original hose here, it obstructed this bolt. So you had to remove the hose to get this bolt out. Now granted, so when you're changing your pads, you're only taking the bottom one out and you're swinging this up. But I just thought that was odd. I'm like, really? But these hoses clear it now, so you can put a socket on that and pull this out without having to break the line. Yeah. Okay, so the rears are done. Everything looks pretty good on there. I like these rotors. They're slotted. ATE is the brand, I believe. Got them off of eBay. They were, the company was really, really helpful. I'll have to go back. It's like Midnight Supplies or Midnight Supplier or something like that. But they're actually really good. They're out of Florida, and the guy was really, really helpful on double checking, making sure that it's the right model that I needed for them. But yeah, so had a couple of leaks, just chasing them down. Put pressure on it, bled them out, and everything looks great. Feels good, so I'm gonna try to get these back together and get to the fronts before I lose daylight. Okay, so something that I came across last night that I had to modify on doing this, which is bizarre because these pads are specifically for the 95 to 99 Eclipse turbos, GST and GSX. And the lip on them, there was like a lip that I had to basically just grind flat off of there because it was coming in contact with that part. So let's see, slip this on. Yeah, look how tight that is in there. I made sure that there is, you can see my finger all the way through there. You can see a gap in there. So that way it has no contact and it can slide freely. But that was something to have to deal with on that. So just for anybody, if they are wanting to do this, you might want to check. I'm not sure if it was a defect on manufacturing for Brembo, or these are supposed to be A1 Cardone. And the Drive Star, I think is the supplier. But I don't think it was a problem with their manufacturing. It might have been a defect with the casting on this, but that's awfully thin through there. You know what I mean? So not totally sure on that, but just something to kind of keep in mind and look at. Alright, so while doing all this, I decided to also change my front sway bar bushings. So factory, they kind of have a built-in washer on them inside the actual bushing. So instead of, getting spinning washers and whatnot, I just went ahead and used like dikes and went around and cut these out. I cut the top of it off, and then I cut out the side. You can see that. I cut that side piece out, and then just grabbed a pair of, you know, small pliers, needle nose pliers, and grabbed here, and then took a flat blade screwdriver, stuck it behind here, and just basically pried it out all the way around, and then like basically wire wheeled and trimmed it, you know, smoothed it off on the other side. But the kit is this from Energy Suspension. All it does is just come with the bushings. That's all it has, is just the bushings. There's no other hardware inside of it, so you kind of have to repurpose your hardware, the bolts and nuts, and then the little like sleeve that goes in the middle. But it works perfectly fine. So I've given it a couple of days just to let it kind of work in and bite itself in. But so far, so good. You know, it works well. If you can see in here, this little line, it's on both sides, but it's only on the outside. So I've done numerous brake jobs in my life, like numerous. It's more than like 5 times. I would say more like 30 or 40 times. And I have always put the silence grease or whatever it is on the back of the pad. It's like, you can see it in here, it's on there. You put it on the back of the pad and you put it on the side where the piston is at. And that helps keep it from squealing or making kind of loud noises or anything. And I also grease up all the pins and everything. Never have I ever had to grease the hardware, the actual mounting hardware. This, you see up in there on the back of the Brembo silence stuff, it actually shows right there in the middle of greasing the hardware. And I don't know if that's Brembo specific or what the deal is, but yeah, that was ridiculously annoying because it would grab when you brake, and it would grab it and like pull it into the rotor, and I'm like, what in the crap? So I went ahead and greased it all up and everything, and it's worked perfectly fine since. Luckily this isn't like deep, so this is, you can't really hit it with your nail. So it should eventually go away over use. But that's just, like, I guess you would call a teething problem, just something to kind of pay attention to. And that's why you always check. I think doing this job took me at least 2 days, 2 full days. Well, I should say 2 7-hour days, but it was because I had to keep taking things off, putting things on, put the wheels on, drive it around, take it back off, look at it, inspect it, do this, make sure nothing's leaking. It's like, so over and over and over, because this was kind of more of a hot rod situation, because like I said, this has been done, but people don't normally do this, and like having to reflare everything, you just kind of, things that you just need to have to pay attention to and look at. But she works, and she works really, really well, so I am quite pleased with this. Thanks, guys.